As part of our human experience, we'll always find ourselves at some point engaged in an argument. Arguments typically we look at as can be very unhealthy. We often walk out of an argument sort of smaller than we were when we began. And that's typically because arguments are usually about an issue that involves either someone being right or someone being wrong. The Torah example of healthy arguments is the argument of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Kol machlokes that are made l'shem shamayim, any arguments that are made for the sake of heaven, those are arguments that we want to follow. And any arguments that are not made in the name of heaven, those are the arguments we want to stay away from. The classic example of arguments not made for the sake of heaven is Korach and his followers. Korach was, of course, a prominent Jew. He was a Levi, very wealthy. He used to carry the Aron. Very few people had a chance to carry the Aron. He was very privileged. But yet when Moshe appointed his brother Aaron as the Kohen Gadol, Korach was very, very upset and conspired to overthrow Moshe and says, hey, we're all holy, we're all at Har Sinai. You shouldn't have any nepotism or any power over any of us. And so he made designs to overthrow Moshe. And ultimately what happened was he and his followers were consumed by the earth. The mouth of the earth opened up and destroyed them. He was led by his own ego, his own attitude about power and control. The other example of a healthy arguing is Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel. They argue in the Torah many arguments, arguing about pru-revu, and when you're fruitful and multiply. The argument there, Beis Shammai says, you have to have 2 boys if you want to fulfill that mitzvah. Beis Hillel says, no. Only a boy and a girl. First night of Hanukkah, we light candles. Do we start with 1 candle or do we light 8 candles? Well, Beis Shammai says you start with 8 candles and then you descend each night. And Beis Hillel says no, you start with 1 and you ascend each night, ultimately lighting 8 candles the last night. 2 different traditions. Divrei Elokim Chaim. The words of God live on. They're arguing about life, about truth. The Talmud says when 2 people sit down to argue about truth, they start off as enemies, but then they don't move from there. They don't move from there until they end up as lovers, because they're both lovers of truth. When we keep that in mind and we're arguing about truth, things of Torah, so argue all day long. You know that the Mishnah, the Torah, everything is filled with arguments. The whole Talmudic discourse is filled with arguing, but healthy arguing. It's the lifeblood of Judaism. A religion without arguing is inhuman, right? We don't just submit to truth. We engage truth, and we try to understand truth. And that is the process of being a Jew, to be mavakesh, to seek truth. And we do that through an intellectual exercise called arguing. Talmudic discourse is a very stimulating, very exciting process to come out with truth, and that's what we engage in. The night of Passover, the Haggadah, is filled with different opinions on how to do things. That's being Jewish, but it's for the sake of heaven. It's for being truthful, and that's our goal. That should be our attitude when we approach family or friends. If we're going to argue, let's argue about a high value system, not about our egos, not about our control, because Korach still lives in all of us. We always get sucked into an argument that has to do with who's right or who's wrong. If there's a 1 winner and 1 loser, don't get involved with that argument. It's a bad argument. But if there's going to be 2 winners, if you're going to ultimately lose but win, that's a good argument to get involved with, because then you grow closer to God. You grow as a person. Let's keep that in mind this week's Parsha. And let's try to kill Korach ultimately in all of us and grow as humans. Good Shabbos.